Good morning. Thank you. Well, thanks so much. It's great to be here back in Palm Bay. I'm joined with our DEP Secretary, Alexis Lambert, as well as South Florida Water Management Board Chairman Chauncey Goss. I know we've got some other dignitaries from the local community, and I want to thank them for coming out. We got a great announcement today about what we're doing to continue to lead the way on conservation and water quality and restoration of important state treasures like the Everglades and the Indian River Lagoon. And I want to thank everybody that's been involved in that. First, before we get into that, we were able to last Friday when we were up in Washington meet with Elon Musk and Doge. We had money that was given supposedly under Biden that had all these strings attached. So they had the infrastructure bill, $330 million, but then we had to monitor people's tailpipe emissions. I'm not doing that in Florida. We are not going to let them change our policies by putting the money there. So we rejected the money. The FDOT secretary sent a letter to them saying, here, it's not something we're going to use, take it back. And they didn't really know what to do. They never took back the allocation. So, and then we had another thing with massive amounts of money for these refugee stuff, which goes to these NGOs, and there's so much corruption in that, let me tell you. So that was over $500 million. So we went and we said, listen, we wanted to reject this. Federal government under the previous administration wouldn't take it. And Elon's, oh no, we'll do it. And so they literally got on the phone with Treasury, worked to, and revoked the allocation and the authorization. And so that's almost $1 billion that would have been frittered away doing the Green New Deal and tailpipe emission monitoring, and now can be residing in the federal coffers. And it's rare that states do that because most of them it's like gimme, gimme, gimme. But the reality is we all have a role in trying to change the fiscal trajectory of this country. And you can sit there and say that, oh, just whatever, nothing about me. But the reality is what we're doing is unsustainable. It's been unsustainable for a long time. So that's one thing we've done. Hopefully other states will follow suit. And look, I'm not saying, if 25 states gave some money back and you ended up with 10, 15, 20 billion going back, as the federal debt goes, that is still a pretty small amount. But I think that this idea that unless you're eliminating the entire deficit or debt, that somehow it shouldn't matter, that's bad thinking. Every little bit counts, and that's how you have to be good stewards. And that's part of the reason why, I just got back, I was in Idaho and Montana working with their legislature. So the Florida legislature is one of 27 states that have certified resolutions for a balanced budget amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So we have to balance our budget in Florida, and we actually run big surpluses, and we're spending less money this year than we did last year. But the federal government obviously has not done that. So if you look at the budget that was passed by the House of Representatives, Republican majority, they forecast, this is what they voted for. We have $36 trillion in debt now. By the end of 2034, they're forecasting $56 trillion debt. And it's just like, that's these Republicans. So that's just not going to work. So you need 34 states to be able to write an amendment and then eventually send it to the states for ratification. We have 27. Idaho and Montana are kind of on the bubble. There's some support, but maybe not enough. And so we went and met with the legislatures, met with the governors of both states, and are, I think, having some success in just making the point that if all we're going to do is hope Congress changes its behavior, we are never, ever going to solve the problem. They're not going to ultimately change their behavior. There may be a little blip here, a little blip there where there's some sanity that reigns, but ultimately the incentives in Washington and the culture of Washington is going to keep them going in the direction that they're going. If you go back 25 years ago, the turn of the 21st century, from the time George Washington put his hand on the Bible and took the oath of office as our first president in 1789 until through the year 2000, the U.S. government accumulated $5.6 trillion in total debt. Since that time, we're now at $36 trillion over the last 25 years. So a $30+ trillion increase in a quarter century, whereas we had over 200 years to get to 5.6 trillion, and even adjusted for inflation, it's still a significant difference. So you do need to impose a constitutional constraint on the ability of these politicians to bankrupt the country. And that's what we're looking to do. Florida was a leader in this and has been for some time. Florida is also, the legislature has also certified term limits for members of Congress, which I'm a big supporter of, and I know some other states are considering that. Don't have as many states yet on that one as the balanced budget amendment, because the balanced budget thing has been something that's been percolating. It's interesting. We actually had a balanced budget in the late 90s in this country. And during that time, there was a push for a balanced budget amendment. And it failed by one vote in the U.S. Senate. And had it got that vote, now the states still would have had to ratify it, but since we already had a balanced budget, we probably would have had a good shot at that. Just think, if they had done a balanced budget requirement 25 years ago, how much different things could look in terms of the trajectory of the country. Because now we're in a situation where we're spending over $1 trillion just to pay interest on the existing debt. That's more than what we spend on the federal government's core function, which is national defense. And it's only going to escalate, particularly if you have to refinance at higher rates. And so the only way you're going to ever be able to solve the problem is to just constitutionally limit what they're able to do, because it's always the easiest to just put it on the credit card, right? I mean, some people want spending. If you put on the credit card, then people tend to not get as upset. If you reduce the spending, some people don't like it. Obviously, we want low taxes. If they raise taxes, they know that they will face political blowback. So it's always the path of least resistance to do that. We don't have that luxury in the states. 49 states have a balanced budget requirement. And Florida, not only have we balanced, we've had big surpluses in the state of Florida. In fact, if you look at Florida's entire history, and look at all the debt Florida accumulated, just since I've been governor, we've paid off 41% of the total debt in the state. So we now have the lowest per capita state debt of any state in the country. Now, there are a couple states, I think, that don't have any state debt. I think Montana's one of them. Kudos to that. But of the ones that do, we have the lowest percentage, or the lowest per capita debt, which is really good, and we want to do more and continue to do it. So all that being said, as we've done that, and we're spending less money this year than we did the year before, we've paid down debt, we've almost quadrupled our rainy day fund, we've cut taxes, done all this, but we've also done things that really are central to the state's vitality, that people want to see addressed. And we've used taxpayer dollars very prudently, but we've used them to make a big impact on a variety of subject matters. We've done it in transportation. We plowed billions and billions of dollars to accelerate road projects. So you're now having projects. And I know, look, these things take a lot longer than I would like, but because of what we're doing, we're going to deliver some of these projects in these congested areas 5, 10, even 15 years ahead of schedule. Just think of all the traffic that's going to save by doing that. And so we know that that's important. It's a growing state. I tell these people I'm not asking for people to move here because we've got a lot of people, but people are free to go where they want in the United States, and that includes travelers. I mean, we've got a lot of tourists. We were out with our kids a couple weeks ago, and I got all these Canadians coming up to me, and I was like, I thought you guys were boycotting. No, there's a lot of folks down here doing all that. So all that being said, we understand we got to do that. We've also done a lot on education. We have universal school choice in Florida. 540,000 students are on scholarship now, most in the country by far. We also have over 400,000 students in charter schools. But then each year since I've been governor, we've increased compensation for teachers, including the most recent year. We did $1.25 billion that was earmarked only for teacher salaries. Because people say, oh, increase education. You send the money to the districts. That doesn't mean they're going to spend it on teachers. In fact, a lot of it goes to bureaucracy. So we created in the budget a special, I guess we call it a categorical, that it can only be used for teacher salaries. and we're looking to do even more this year. But we've done more in the last 5 or 6 years on that than the state of Florida has ever done by far. So we think that that's important. We also have done a lot with our universities, although we haven't raised tuition or let them raise tuition. So in-state tuition is about $6,300 for a Florida resident, which is the lowest in the entire United States. And you also have, we have 4 of the top 50 ranked public universities now in the United States of America: USF, FSU, UF, and then Florida International University. But then UCF's done good and others have done good. So that's a great value. And who knows, if you're at University of Florida, maybe you'll be at a national championship basketball team winning, who knows, right? We'll see. I get some applause for that. We probably have some Florida State fans in the crowd. I can tell you, I am not sure my kids, having been in Tallahassee for their formative years, I try to tell them, I said, listen, Dad's governor, he didn't go to any of those. We want all the Florida teams to do well. You can't be, rooting against. Like, it's one thing if you're a Florida State fan and you want to root for them against Florida or Miami at that point. Okay, but guys, if Florida's playing Duke in basketball, you got to root for the Gators. I don't know if I've closed that sale with the kids yet, so we'll see. We'll keep you posted. So you've done, the education commitment has been fantastic. Tax relief has been fantastic. We've done billions and billions of dollars. We're now looking to eliminate the business rent tax. We've reduced it a lot. We're the only state in the country that actually taxes business rent. It makes it harder for small businesses to get off the ground. So that'll be a win for Florida if we're able to retire that. And then we're setting up to be able to do property tax relief, which is really needed in Florida. You assess these values. First of all, until someone pays you for your property, you don't really know how much it's worth. So if you pay $250,000 for a home 10 years ago, now they come and tell you, oh, it's actually worth $800,000, pay up and more taxes. Well, really? Who says that? Just because some other house may have sold, it doesn't mean that's what, and the market fluctuates. So I think people have gotten pinched on this. Now, property tax is local. It's not something that the state controls. We would need to put something on the ballot in 2026, but we're going to do that. We're going to put something on the ballot to give people relief. But we've also, even with that fiscal responsibility, even with the support for taxpayers, we have addressed better than any time in the state's history the protection of Florida's natural resources and the improvement of water quality in the state. And when I came in, we launched a big initiative, not just about Everglades restoration, but that was kind of the crown jewel because that's the biggest restoration program in the United States and maybe even in the entire world. Incidentally on that, we were meeting with some folks in the White House, and I've spoken to the president about this too. Our projects that we do for Everglades restoration, we do them much quicker than the Army Corps of Engineers does. You remember with SERP, it's like a 50-50 cost share. This was 25 years ago. The feds are going to do, we're doing our part. And we've done a lot over the last 6 years to really move it forward as quickly as I think humanly possible. Not so much with the feds, particularly under Biden and the Army Corps. They just move very slowly. I think this the way it's organized. There's bureaucracy. It's cumbersome. And I think this is in keeping with the president's vision to empower the states. What we've asked is, send us the money. We'll build the dam reservoir ourselves. We'll get it done. We will do it quicker. You can still take credit for your part of the cost share. We're not asking for that to change. It's still federal money, but let us do it. And I think that they want to do that. So we're working with the folks in the budget office to be able to get that done. But wouldn't that be great if we were able to have that money block granted here and then we could just run and do? I mean, you even look at the reservoir on the St. Lucie side of Lake Okeechobee. We did it, and now you have problems where there's leakage and the feds are doing, and it's just slow. And we move a lot quicker here. I mean, just think about when a hurricane comes, you have city, county, state really there for the immediate response and the immediate aftermath. Is there anyone here that would rather have FEMA take over those functions in Florida than the state of Florida? Anybody? I don't see any hands. We just move quicker. We have a culture in Florida where we don't want to be bogged down by bureaucracy and red tape. If there's a job to do, get it done. And let's get an answer and let's move forward. So I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to do that. But we've also recognized the importance of the Indian River Lagoon, Florida Springs, changing from septic tanks to sewer systems to be able to mitigate runoff into our nice areas. And we've put huge resources into this. And we've had a lot of success already, and we're continuing to build on the success. And so that's why we're here, because we are going to be announcing major grants, or we are announcing major grants to improve water quality and water quantity across the state of Florida. And I'm proud to say that we are awarding $389 million in these grants, and this includes $189 million in water quality improvement grants. So this was, the legislature decided to put some of these the water quality program in we get money from the Seminole tribe for the revenue share to put this in to where every year you would just have it earmarked that this would go to these grants. There's, I think, about a 3-month period where localities can apply for the grants. Then it goes through the criteria that the legislature has enacted, and then the grants are selected and awarded. So we're happy to be able to do that. These are going to make a big difference across the state of Florida. We're also pleased to award $55 million to expand alternative water supply projects. We've got a lot of water issues in Florida that we deal with. Making sure we have adequate water supply is sometimes overlooked, but it's something that's important. And we're pleased to say $100 million for the newly established Indian River Lagoon Protection Program, which is very important to people in this part of the state. So this is the most biologically diverse estuary in all of North America, and it's a key economic driver both for the region and the state. With today's awards, we've now invested nearly $500 million in water quality improvements in this area alone since I became governor in 2019. The selected projects will provide the community with funds to upgrade wastewater facilities, convert septic systems to sewer, and reduce harmful runoff into the Indian River Lagoon, and we're really excited about that, and I want to thank everybody that's been involved with that. We're also doing $25 million to the Caloosahatchee Watershed Grant Program to reduce nutrients from depositing into the Caloosahatchee River and estuary. These investments support our communities and support our larger Everglades restoration projects, and we are going to have the reservoir on the western side of Lake Okeechobee completed. When is that scheduled? Pretty soon. Yeah, so for July. So you will have that completed reservoir. You have the reservoir that we have completed on the eastern part of Lake Okeechobee that the feds are still kind of, what do we know? What's the timeline on the feds finishing whatever remediation they have to do?
This decade.
This decade? He's being a little facetious, but I could ask them, we could take that over too probably, right? Yeah, okay. Well, maybe we'll do that one too. But what you'll have, and then we have the reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee, which is the one we want to build. So we already did the stormwater treatment area from that ahead of schedule. We want to have the full reservoir, which the Army Corps is in charge of doing. And we're just saying, just give us the grant. We'll go ahead and plow forward and do that. But you'll be in a situation where if that lake gets too high, they can put money in they can send the water to these reservoirs, clean it, and then let it flow. And there's not going to be any problems with these algae blooms or anything like that. So, and on the Caloosahatchee, 2018, that was before I was governor, they had a lot of problems with the algae. We've had a lot of problems on the east coast of Florida in 2016 in particular. It has gotten a lot better, partially when President Trump was in the first time. I asked him, can you please ask the Army Corps to manage, because we don't do the lake. When water is discharged, that's the Army Corps. I was like, can you please have them manage it better so that they're not spewing this algae into the estuaries, and they did change the way they did it, and I know they worked a little bit differently when Biden was president, but we feel like we're in a much better spot on that. But both sides of Lake Okeechobee are really, really important. We're also pleased to announce $20 million to support the Biscayne Bay water quality improvement program. This will expedite water quality improvements and will reduce nutrients flowing into the bay. That's a very important treasure for people in the Miami region, and we've been very supportive of helping Biscayne Bay for the entire time that I've been governor. So the projects that I'm announcing today will reduce harmful nutrients in our water, and they're projected to remove more than 1.1 million additional pounds of nitrogen and 286,000 additional pounds of phosphorus each and every year. That's a big, big improvement. These efforts will help communities upgrade wastewater treatment, improve stormwater systems, and connect septic systems to sewer lines, all to keep our water cleaner and healthier. Now, we are now in the midst of a legislative session. I have proposed in the governor's recommended budgets $550 million to continue advancing water quality improvements and another $60 million to expand our alternative water supply efforts even further. We have shown a commitment to being good stewards of the state's natural resources, but we also recognize how this contributes to both our way of life and our economy. And it's really been the lifeblood of our economy when people want to come, and they come from all over the world to be able to enjoy fishing and boating and all the things that Florida has to offer. So we've made Florida a leader in water resource protection, and we will continue to deliver results. I said when I became governor, we have a responsibility to leave the state of Florida to God better than we found it, and I'm pleased that we are doing just that. Okay, Alexis, come on up.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here, and thank you so much, Governor. I'm Alexis Lambert, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Secretary of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. It's an honor to be here on the Space Coast today, a place where scientific exploration, environmental conservation, and water resource management intersect. As we continue to protect and enhance the state's water resources, I'm excited to join the Governor in announcing these grants that will improve both water quality and supply throughout Florida. This year's grant cycle generated significant interest, with 348 project applications requesting more than $2.2 billion. After a thorough evaluation process, 31 high-priority projects have been selected for funding, representing the most impactful and cost-effective solutions to reduce nutrient loading and improve water quality across the state. In addition to water quality improvement grants, we are focusing on targeted restoration efforts in key waterways, like right here at the Indian River Lagoon. Under the governor's leadership, we've invested $500 million in 169 community-led projects in this watershed. To date, 40 projects, including septic to sewer and stormwater, have been completed, with 27 scheduled for completion later this year. Collectively, these efforts are projected to remove more than 1.3 million pounds of nitrogen and more than 11,000 pounds of phosphorus annually. This will significantly improve the water quality. And today, we are taking the next step, funding 25 new projects to specifically address water quality in the lagoon. In Vero Beach, $11.3 million will support a state-of-the-art reclamation facility. And in Melbourne, $8.6 million will upgrade the Grant Street water facility, improving wastewater treatment and reducing nutrient pollution, just to name a few. These targeted investments in the Indian River Lagoon are a model for waterway restoration in other parts of the state, such as the Caloosahatchee River and Estuary and the Biscayne Bay, as the governor mentioned. While we continue to restore water quality, we must also look to the future of Florida's water supply, especially given our growing population and our millions of visitors each year. That's why Florida is leading the way in expanding alternative water supply and reducing our reliance on traditional freshwater resources. Today, I'm proud to join the governor in announcing the allocation of $55 million for 14 alternative water supply projects across the state, which will produce more than 40 million gallons of clean water per day upon completion. Proactive investments like these are the hallmark of the DeSantis administration. Since 2019, investments in alternative water supply have generated more than 225 million gallons of new fresh water per day to support the long-term water sustainability for the state. But we're not stopping here. To build on this momentum, as the governor mentioned, he's recommended $550 million in next year's budget to support multiple water quality improvement grants, and $60 million to advance more projects to secure an abundant and sustainable water supply for today and tomorrow. With this funding, DEP will open our grant portal this summer, and I encourage even more communities to apply. The partnerships we formed and the strategic investments that we're making in these projects are paving the way for a sustainable future for Florida's water resources. I want to again thank Governor DeSantis for his leadership and the legislature for their continued support. Florida's economy, the recreation opportunities we enjoy as residents and our visitors, and our identity as a state depend on water resources. Together, we will ensure their protection for future generations. Thank you, Governor.
Chauncey?
Chauncey, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chauncey Goss. I'm chairman of the South Florida Water Management District's governing board. And Governor, I want to thank you. Secretary Lambert, thank you. I'd also like to recognize Cole Oliver is here with the St. Johns River Water Management District, and thank you for hosting us today. Our executive director from the South Florida Water Management District, Drew Bartlett, is also here. This is a really exciting day for us. Anytime we get to announce funding for important projects, it's an exciting day. It's going to be a good day for us, and we're very appreciative of all the funding that we're seeing for water quality in the state, particularly from where I stand, the Caloosahatchee watershed and the Biscayne, among others. I've been chairman of the South Florida Water Management District Governing Board for 6 years. And I can honestly tell you, we've made more progress in these 6 years than we have made in decades. And the reason for that progress is standing beside me on this stage. When Governor DeSantis prioritizes something, it absolutely remains a priority until completion. Since he took office, we have celebrated 75 groundbreakings, major milestones, and completions on Everglades restoration and resiliency projects across our region. The most in state history. That's 75 in 6 years, and to me, that's incredible. We're continuing to see both small and large-scale projects come online, and the beauty of it is they're working. We're seeing record hydration in the Everglades, and salinity levels in Florida Bay are hitting our goals. We're not going to rest, though, and I'm proud to tell you that in 2025, we have 3 more major SERP projects coming online. Governor DeSantis just mentioned the C-43. That's in my neighborhood. I live in Sanibel. So the C-43 is in Hendry County. It's on the Caloosahatchee River. It's something we've been waiting for a long time. This project, it's a game changer. It's going to provide 55 billion gallons of water storage. It's going to support healthy salinity levels in the Caloosahatchee estuary. Importantly, for the economy and the ecology of Southwest Florida, it's going to reduce harmful flows of water from the Caloosahatchee estuary from Lake Okeechobee. So thanks to the leadership of Governor DeSantis and the Florida legislature, both the East and the West Coast reservoirs, you just mentioned those, they're done. At the end of this year, we're going to celebrate the Biscayne Bay Coastal Wetlands Project. That's another SERP effort. That redistributes fresh water flows to Biscayne Bay. It rehydrates and improves coastal habitat in Miami-Dade. It's a beautiful project. We got to visit it recently. And the third SERP project we're going to complete by the end of the year is the Picayune Strand Project. That's going to restore natural flow of water across 85 square miles in Collier County. I think it's a 55,000 acre project. It's enormous. This project is going to rehydrate drained wetlands, and it's going to enhance habitat for fish and wildlife and restore the area's natural sheet flow. So under Governor DeSantis, we've had the highest level of funding for Everglades restoration in our state's history, and I can't thank you enough for your leadership and your commitment on these. The energy and the momentum of the district, it's palpable. And it begins at the top with our governor. And I'll tell you, the staff at the district, they're really hardworking, and they enjoy the fact that you set that bar so high. Your commitment to the Everglades, to water quality improvements, and to enhancing the quality of life for millions of Floridians is inspiring to each of us. And I'm honored to be here representing the South Florida Water Management District and the 9 million people we serve. We appreciate the funding and the support, sir.
Absolutely. Oh. Okay, is that All right. That's fine. You can still hear me. Well, we appreciate what Secretary Lambert has done, kind of got thrown into the fire after Sean retired, and has moved these projects forward. And then what Chauncey and Drew and people at the South Florida Water Management District, I mean, they've carried a lot of the load on all this stuff, and it's been a really great effort. We've moved quickly. We've continued to have these projects, groundbreakings, completions. We want to have the Fed just turn over the keys to the kingdom for us on those, and we'll run with it. I mean, we really want to get this stuff done. I think it's important. I mean, we've already seen some of the great results with Florida Bay salinity and all these other things. And yes, when the C-43 is there, that's going to be a great place to be able to store and clean water and move it in the rainy season if you need to, without having the same problems we've seen in the past with some of these discharges. So it's really good stuff. We got to keep the momentum going. I know we've had a lot of support from folks in the legislature. We appreciate that. We want to continue to bring all these projects to a conclusion so that finally, we're 25 years into SERP, well, finally we'll be able to say that this stuff's gotten done. Okay, do we have any questions out there? Yes.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for being here today. I'm Gabrielle from the Dixie County Advocate in the Big Bend.
Oh, cool.
A lot of
What brings you to this neck of the woods?
Well, it's a beautiful place, right? And you're here. We're here for you. But you mentioned property taxes, and the local governments in the Big Bend are concerned about some of the proposals to raise the homestead exemption to $100,000 and what that would do to their ability to provide services to their residents. Can you comment on that, sir?
Well, look, I think that people need relief from property taxes. I think that I think our coastal counties with the tourism, first of all, budgets have grown locally in the last 5 or 6 years. Some of these budgets have gone 50, 60, 70% in some of these places because the revenue has just been off the charts in some of the areas that have really had economic growth. So just by reverting to 5 years ago, the spending, if you held that constant, you would be able to continue to do the core functions. But, you know, if you're going to tax, I don't want you taxing Florida residents' property. I tax the tourists, tax some of the foreigners. I mean, you have the ability in some of those areas that draw a lot of people to shift the tax burden away from your own people to people that are not residents of Florida. I think that would be a better tax system than constantly having people pay higher property taxes. Now, on rural, I'm willing to work with rural on that because they don't have the same luxury that a Broward County would have or a Miami-Dade would have when you have people that are flooding down there. So the economic realities are just different. Now, we also want to do things to juice some manufacturing and some production in those areas. I mean, I've talked with folks about, you know, could we bring auto manufacturing to the Big Bend? I would be in favor of that. I've even said, I would say, if you start a facility in those areas that have been hit by the more recent hurricanes in the Big Bend, I would say pay no tax for 10 years, like no corporate tax if you're starting a business, if you're doing manufacturing there. So we want to be helpful, but if the price that we have to pay to give Floridians relief from property taxes is that the state provides some budget support for some of our rural, fiscally constrained counties, that'd be a trade I would make.
Governor DeSantis, Megan Moriarty with question 2. I just had a question for you regarding NASA headquarters. I know that you have a big push. You want to move headquarters here to the Space Coast. Can you talk about that? And then, in addition, NASA cuts. Last week, Representative Heragopoulos, he said that the only people who have left NASA here, Kennedy Space Center, are the ones who accepted the buyout. And you said you met with Elon Musk yesterday. Some people are worried about losing their job. Is that a possibility?
Well, on the NASA headquarters, so, you know, this is one of the things I raised with Elon, and I think he's supportive of having the headquarters there, but he also recuses himself from issues regarding NASA just because he has SpaceX. So we've raised it with the president, we've raised it with the OMB. What it would end up doing, it fits right in with DOGE, because right now they are planning on spending over $500 million to build a new NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Their current headquarters has been vacant for 4 years. Like literally almost nobody shows up to this. So there's not necessary, and when they tell you it's going to be $500 million, you know it'll probably end up being $1 billion. They're already making expansions at Kennedy. And you could basically use that existing footprint to move the NASA headquarters there, and you'd save the taxpayers $500 million, maybe even $1 billion. And you'd also have people in the agency where the action is. They don't need to be in Washington, D.C. I want to get these agencies out of Washington, D.C. It's a swamp. It's a toxic culture because all this power is accumulated there, whether it's the House, the Senate, the bureaucrats, all this stuff, and that's not what the Founding Fathers intended. So NASA should be, and look, it should be in the Space Coast, but you could argue it could be other places. It should not be in Washington, D.C. Spending that money is a waste to build a new headquarters there. I'm pretty sure DOGE is going to nix the headquarters, and then it's just a question of where the administration wants to move NASA headquarters. But I think this is as good a place as any by far. If you look at all the stuff that's happening here, this is where most of the launches occur. This is where the history is, and it's really good. Now, in terms of the workforce, I would defer to the Congress folks and the administration on that. I'm not privy to how they're handling those matters, just as governor. But I will just say, we've done a lot. If you look, they just opened the bridge. I mean, look at the stuff that we've done to be able to support infrastructure and to be able to support workforce just in this region alone. I mean, we've done more certainly than any administration in Florida history because we understand that this is, I mean, just think back to 15 years ago, 14, 15 years ago, Space Coast was dead when Obama retired the shuttle. There were people losing their jobs, no vitality, and then now look at where we're at. A lot of that is private money has come in. I think government under Trump has handled it better. So there's a lot of opportunities here, and we've been on the forefront of that. So we want to be able to have our young people have a pathway into these industries and working for these companies. And maybe it's NASA, but quite frankly, you'll make more money working for SpaceX. You'll make more money working for some of these others. You can come right out of high school in some of these companies and go to some of these companies. We also have Embry-Riddle. We have UCF. We've got State College. We've got all these pipelines that we've really worked hard to do. So I think we're doing a lot to equip our young people with the skills they need to make an impact in this continually expanding industry, and the possibilities are really significant. Obviously, just the fact that Elon's involved in the administration, even though he's not having decision involvement on the things that could potentially affect his business, I think clearly you have a commitment from the president and the administration to continue expanding our horizons in space, and it's something I think will be good for this area. Yes. Well, I guess we'll see, right? What I will tell you this. Regardless of the outcome in that, it's going to be a way underperformance from what I won that district by in 22 and what President won it by in November. They're going to try to lay that at the feet of President Trump. That is not a reflection of President Trump. It's a reflection of the specific candidate running in that race. And President Trump, if he were on the ballot in this special election, he would win by 30 points, no question. So the liberal media in Washington and the political press, they're going to try, if this doesn't work out as well, they're going to try to weaponize that against the president. And just as somebody that's been around the block here in Florida on this stuff, I can tell you it's a candidate-specific issue. I think the district is so overwhelmingly Republican that there's literally, it was almost impossible for someone with an R by their name to lose that district. So I would anticipate Republican candidate is still going to be successful. Do I think that they will get even close to the margins that I received or President Trump received? No. Is that a reflection on the president? Absolutely not. It's a reflection of the candidate that's running in that race. Okay, thanks everybody. God bless.